The world may not officially call it World War, but the pieces are moving like it already is. Behind diplomatic language and carefully worded press statements, something far more dangerous is unfolding. From Eastern Europe to the Middle East, governments are quietly preparing for prolonged conflict, expanding military reserves, and negotiating deals that could reshape global power overnight. And now, new developments suggest the situation is accelerating faster than expected. This is not just another update, this is a warning sign of what may come next. A war with no end in sight. Ukraine is bracing for a long and exhausting conflict, one that may stretch far beyond what anyone initially predicted. Instead of lowering the conscription age, officials are now considering a controversial alternative: mobilizing retired soldiers and former law enforcement personnel. The reasoning is simple, but alarming. There are still thousands of trained individuals who once served in the military or security forces but are no longer active. Authorities believe these individuals could be called back into service to strengthen defenses without sending younger, inexperienced citizens into combat. This shift reveals something critical: Ukraine is preparing, not for months but for years of war. Officials openly admit that the conflict could drag on for a long time, especially as Russia continues to expand its military capacity. The idea is no longer just survival, it's endurance. War until 2030. Europe's quiet strategy. A statement from a senior European military official has triggered outrage and deep within Ukraine. The message was blunt: Ukraine's fight is buying time for Europe. According to the assessment, Europe may need until 2030 to fully prepare for a potential large-scale confrontation with Russia. By then, Russia could still maintain hundreds of thousands of battle-hardened troops, while Europe hopes to strengthen its defenses enough to stand independently even without U.S. support. This revelation has sparked backlash. Ukrainian leaders strongly rejected the idea that their country is simply a buffer or a tool in a broader geopolitical strategy. They insist their people are not sacrificing their lives just to give others time to prepare for future wars. Still, the statement exposes a harsh reality. Ukraine is not just fighting for itself, it is part of a much bigger strategic equation: high-stakes diplomacy. A possible meeting despite ongoing battles, diplomatic efforts are quietly continuing. There are growing discussions about a potential high-level meeting involving Ukraine, Russia, Turkey, and possibly even the United States. The goal? To explore any chance, however small, of reducing tensions or finding a pathway toward peace. Turkey is being considered as a neutral ground for these talks, but skepticism remains high. Previous negotiations have failed, and trust between the sides is nearly non-existent. Still, the mere fact that such a meeting is being discussed suggests that all parties understand the risks of letting the conflict spiral further. Belarus, the next flashpoint? One of the most dangerous developments is unfolding just north of Ukraine. Intelligence reports suggest increased military activity in Belarus, including the construction of roads toward the Ukrainian border and the preparation of artillery positions. These are not routine exercises, they signal potential readiness for escalation. At the same time, Belarus has announced a call-up of reservists. While officials claim this is standard military preparation, the timing raises serious questions. Is Belarus being drawn deeper into the conflict? Or is it preparing for a scenario where it cannot stay out any longer? Warnings have already been issued. If Belarus becomes directly involved, the consequences could be severe. This could open anew in the war, something that would dramatically change the battlefield. Arrests and espionage. Trouble within the ranks as the war intensifies. Internal cracks are beginning to show. In Ukraine, a senior military officer has been arrested on corruption charges, accused of taking bribes in exchange for transferring soldiers between units. While officials stress the presumption of innocence, the case highlights ongoing challenges within the system. Meanwhile, in Poland, a soldier has been detained on suspicion of working with foreign intelligence. The allegations are serious: links to Russian interests, public pro-Russian statements, and potential espionage activities. Although the evidence is still being examined, the case underscores growing fears about infiltration and divided loyalties even within allied nations. These incidents reveal another layer of the conflict. It's not just being fought on battlefields but also behind closed doors. A billion-dollar nuclear gamble while Europe focuses on military readiness. Another high-stakes negotiation is unfolding in the Middle East. The United States and Iran are reportedly discussing a massive deal involving enriched uranium. The proposal: financial relief in exchange for limiting or surrendering nuclear materials. The numbers being discussed are staggering: tens of billions of dollars. This isn't just about economics. It's about nuclear capability, global security, and the balance of power in one of the most volatile regions in the world. But the deal is far from certain. Iran is hesitant to give up its leverage, while the U.S. is under pressure to prevent further nuclear escalation. Meanwhile, other global players are watching closely, ready to respond depending on the outcome. Ceasefire tensions and power plays in another surprising twist. A temporary halt in strikes has been enforced in parts of the Middle East. The United States has pushed for a pause in military operations, particularly involving Israel and Lebanon. While the ceasefire is holding for now, it is widely seen as fragile. Leaders have made it clear. This is not the end of the conflict. Military operations could resume at any moment, depending on how the situation evolves. Behind the scenes, negotiations are ongoing, but so are preparations for further escalation. Mysterious deaths and disappearances, perhaps the most unsettling development, comes from within the United States itself. A series of unexplained deaths and disappearances involving scientists and military experts has raised serious concerns. Many of these individuals were connected to sensitive fields like space research and nuclear technology. The pattern is difficult to ignore: multiple cases over recent years, limited public information, and growing speculation about possible foul play. Some believe it could be coincidence. Others fear something far more coordinated. Investigations are expected, but for now, the mystery remains unsolved. Information war, narratives, and power. As physical conflicts intensify, so does the battle for narrative control. World leaders are increasingly using strong language to shape public perception, accusing each other of dictatorship, hypocrisy, and aggression. These statements are not just rhetoric. They are part of a broader strategy to influence global opinion. The information war is in full force. Every statement, every accusation, every headline plays a role in shaping how the conflict is understood around the world. Russia prepares its own defenses inside Russia. Regional authorities are taking new steps to prepare for potential threats. In areas considered strategically important, local governments are organizing civilian-based defense units. These groups are being tasked with protecting infrastructure and responding to aerial threats such as drones. Volunteers, including veterans and retirees, are being called upon to participate. The message is clear: preparation is no longer optional, it is urgent. The bigger picture: when you connect all these developments, a larger pattern begins to emerge. Long-term war planning, expansion of military reserves, rising espionage fears, high-risk nuclear negotiations, fragile ceasefires, internal instability, and increasing global polarization. This is no longer a series of isolated events. It is a global shift toward prolonged instability. Final thought: the world isn't waiting for a single moment to define the next major conflict. It's already unfolding piece by piece, decision by decision. And while leaders speak of peace, their actions suggest preparation for something much bigger. The question is no longer if things will escalate further. It's how soon.